So now that the electric was done, we wanted to start working on the exterior shell. We decided to work from the bottom up, and that meant it was time for some skirting. We wanted to skirt it for two reasons. One, to keep cold air from circulating under the shed during cold weather months, and two, to keep critters and animals from living underneath. Our plan was to skirt it with white aluminum. First, we framed it in with treated 2x4s, and of course, everything needed to be cut on angles. We had to jack up the back of the shed to push in the foundation blocks because they and the 4x4s were sticking out past the rim joist. The front needed that too, but we just went around those because the jack I brought wouldn't fit under there. And once it was framed in, we sheeted it with 1/2-inch treated plywood, and that plywood made a nice transition to the 1/2-inch OSB sheeting on the shed. I've heard that the modern chemicals in treated lumber doesn't play nice with aluminum and that the chemicals will corrode the aluminum over time. So as a precaution, we just covered the treated plywood with an adhesive asphalt product to serve as a barrier. And then finally, we wrapped everything with white aluminum. And we buried the aluminum a few inches, except for the front where we had notched around the foundation blocks. So in the middle of the skirting project, we got sidetracked a bit and decided to work on the front door. The door was still in decent condition. However, the brick molding was rotted at the bottom, and the bottom of the door jamb was starting to show signs of rot too. So we built a small overhang over the door to keep the weather off it, and we wrapped the door jamb with aluminum. Now I didn't have any way to bend 80 inches of aluminum, so I just bought some 4-inch fascia and cut it for size. When you're 4 hours from home, you do what you gotta do, and it's just a shed. Then we replaced the brick molding with PVC brick molding and installed a storm door. We installed a storm door for two reasons. One, to keep the weather off the main door, but also to have a screen to provide a cross breeze inside the shed between the rear window and the front door. And that did a nice job of cooling down the shed during warmer weather. And the last part of the front door project was building a front step. The masonry block steps in front of the door had settled and become unstable over time. So we just spent an hour building a sturdy step out of some treated 2x4s. The next project that we tackled was trimming the windows. There are only 2 windows in the structure and they are both on the back wall. I had some leftover PVC trim from some projects at home, and that gave us just enough materials to get the 2 windows trimmed. Now obviously we have plenty of projects going on with the shed, but one thing we quite enjoy about this property is the lack of yard work. There is no need for a lawnmower or a weed trimmer, and we quite like that. With that said, we did spend some time expanding the clearing in front of the shed. We did this so that we could have plenty of room to park vehicles and to turn the boat around. From time to time there are fallen trees and or branches to clean up, but we would be collecting firewood and kindling for the fire anyways. And at times, the ferns creep into the clearing from the woods and they need to be cut down with a hand sickle. But overall, there's really not much yard work at all, and that is a nice change of pace. Now all the projects that I described in this video took numerous days. And of course, we went fishing after dinner on all these days too. At this point in the season, we had fished 9 different lakes in the area. Some from the Lund and others from the kayaks. Unfortunately, I got quite lazy with the camera during this part of the season, so I don't have much fishing footage to share. But I do have a little bit of one lake. This particular lake we have fished a couple times now. We've caught quite a bit of largemouth here, and it is a beautiful place to be on the water. So at this point in the season, we had completed the electric, the skirting, the overhang, the front door, and the windows. And now we were ready to start thinking about the fascia, the soffit, and the siding. But we had a problem. The problem was that summer had come to an end. We still had Labor Day weekend available and maybe one more trip after that, but we knew we would not be able to get up there much during the fall, if at all. This meant that we wouldn't be able to get this thing sided until spring. So we needed to get the OSB covered up with something on our next trip. And that is where I will pick up in the next video. I will catch you later.